And we're live.
Oh no! Now I'm nervous.
Mr. Freddie, Tavarish,
Hi.
Hernandez.
Should have looked at you. Should have looked at the camera. They're looking at us.
I usually look right here down. I don't
Down.
look at anybody because and I get a little sweaty and.
It just starts pouring down.
No, you have to do. I want you to do deadpan. Look at me. Look at the camera. Look like every 15 seconds. That'll really creep people out.
I can do that. I can do that very well because I got like 3 hours of sleep and my brain is not functioning right now.
Typical YouTube guy is too busy to sleep.
Well, when you have to do editing, yeah.
But you don't have a job.
The job is, well, it's fun employment, Matt, okay? It's fun employment.
I want to talk a little bit about that today. And,
sure.
Life and job and, what the stigmas of being, a social media employed by yourself, employed on social media, and what that means. Obviously, the people that watch and listen to this know my story.
Sure.
But I wanted to pick your brain from a little different perspective because we have different styles, different types, different focuses in our businesses. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. But for those of you who aren't familiar, Freddie's channel is called Tavarish.
Yes.
You've been on the podcast before, but we haven't done anything live. And tell us real quickly where's Tavarish come from?
Tavarish was a screen name that I came up with when I was 12. I'm originally from Russia, and Tavarish just means comrade or friend, dude, in Russian. And I picked that name because I couldn't think of anything more clever, and it just kind of stuck.
So your background is from, you were on Jalopnik a number of years ago.
Yeah. So
you're part of that kind of core. There's this whole, it was like the farm leagues for what is now the big leagues for YouTube, right?
A little bit. What I did with Jalopnik was I was just kind of a contributor. I did a bunch of, basically like a freelancer, but I was there pretty regularly. And I used that as kind of a stepping stone because I saw a lot of people going from Jalopnik or something like some publications like that, like Tyler Hoover of Hoover's Garage and Doug DeMuro, and they went on to become big in YouTube. And I was seeing that, and I said, well, I could probably try this. It might work. I have a little bit of a niche. I know some things about cars, and I think I can probably make an interesting story. So, that's how it sort of started.
So if you go back and listen to the whole, we told your life story, but so I'm gonna gloss over some of the background of the story and talk more about the structure of how you do things and how the business is set up, because it really is. I mean, Adam LZ, you, Tyler Hoovey, all these Doug DeMuro. Yeah. It really is. It's become a small business, if you will, and in some cases, it's some cases a really big small business.
It's 100% a business, and there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes, as you know. I mean, you have like a brick and mortar business that runs off of your YouTube channel, but with a traditional sort of, I get paid by AdSense and sponsors, that becomes its own thing where now you have to manage those relationships. Now you have to do research into what you do. Like there's 10 times as much structure that goes into a video time-wise than I actually put in the video. So it's like all the stuff you don't see.
Well, and then the difficulty, my channel's similar to yours in that we're videoing some sort of project.
Yes.
Unlike just a day vlog of whatever you're doing, the project has to get done.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah. but in my case, the project just sits in a corner and collects dust. But the project definitely has to get done. There has to be a beginning, middle, and end.
There's a lot of, in order to capture 30 seconds, there's at times 5 hours worth of work. Yeah. Just that's boring, that doesn't fit.
So actually, while we're doing this podcast, I'm putting out a new video about taking the engine out of my Bentley Continental GT. And that video took me 5 days to make, and it's a 16-minute video. Yeah. And I know I'm going to have people in the comments saying like, "Oh, why don't you get more work done?" Like, listen, it's probably the hardest engine out I've ever done in any car. And it was so much work. And there's a lot of stuff I didn't film just because it's like me struggling with a bolt for 3 hours, So it's a lot of stuff like that that's not going to be interesting on camera, but it just has to get done because otherwise you're not going to do the project.
So let's talk a little bit about, because my my foray, and these guys all know my transition to YouTube, and how it was therapy and a passion project and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
You and I've talked about this. I hope you'll be candid. You calculated. So what can I do? What would
Sure.
people want to watch?
Right.
How do I speak? How do I craft that? How do I put that together? I'm just not clever enough. I've talked about. You told me, dude, you need to be a little bit sharper with your titling and your thumbnails.
Sure.
And so tell me a little bit about, because I mean, what you're doing is clearly some form of passion.
Of course, yeah. I love it. First of all, I'm a car guy. I've been a car guy since I can remember, and it's all fueled by my love of taking things apart, putting them back together, learning how they work, and then kind of building a story from. Let's say I buy a car that's crashed or been on fire, or just like something that's neglected, and then I go to something where it's now nice and it's presentable, and maybe it makes a little more power and it sounds different, or there's something different about it. Maybe it has a different engine, and like I like being a part of that car story. And when you can craft that, and then you can show people why that's interesting or why they should care, then people start to care.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's reflected in your, ascent, your significant growth. I mean, not too long ago, we had a similar number of subscribers. I even had a little bit more, and you've kind of ascended really quickly. I think
that's more of the car. I mean, it was the Lamborghini that I did last year. Nobody had done anything like that. At that point, and now it seems like everybody's doing an exotic car rebuild thing.
What's your take on? I mean, you and maybe was it Tyler and maybe B is for Build? You kind of were doing that. Now it's become every. I saw Tanner Fox talking about he's thinking about doing doing it. It's become
that's also a vlog, and then he can put that in the thumbnail, and then it doesn't matter because the people that are watching him are usually younger and they don't care about clickbait,
right?
Or something like that. But with something that is like I had first mover advantage. I had a Lamborghini for anybody who's wondering what I'm talking about. I bought a Lamborghini Gallardo. It was the cheapest one in the country because it had some fire damage, but it was also a twin turbo. It had a 6-speed manual transmission, but there's like a bunch of stuff wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
It did run, but it didn't drive. The clutch was bad and all that stuff. So I took on this project, and it was the first project of its kind. Like, people had been doing projects, like my friend Chris from BS for Build. He's been doing projects, but it's more like JDM stuff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really ambitious to the point where this is an exotic and these parts cost tens of thousands of dollars at some point. So I just decided to do it. I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And then that kind of blew up my channel. Mm-hmm. Then people started watching, and then not only did people start watching, but other YouTubers started watching, and they said, why don't I do this? Like, it doesn't, so then TJ Hunt got a Ferrari, then B is for Build got all of his cars. And now I think there's like 3 Lamborghini Huracan builds on YouTube, like 3 different ones. And they're all rebuilding them. They're all from Copart, and they're all like, okay, great. So I understand first mover advantage there, but now I want to go into something else. Like, maybe it's like something story driven. Maybe it's, I don't want to be known as the guy that like, oh, you rebuild cars just like everybody else. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's got to be frustrating. I mean, I've had a little bit of influence because I was one of the first movers. Larry Mo NYC kind of influenced me in the beginning, but there were brands. There was Chemical Guys and
exactly,
Adams. Yeah. There wasn't any guy. Certainly wasn't any guy sitting there talking for 50 minutes straight, and and sharing the whole process, the whole story, and all the details.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about? Does that frustrate you, or do you it just motivates you to look for other things to do?
Oh no, it doesn't frustrate me at all. I know that it was destined to be like that, because when you do well, then other people are going to start emulating what you do, and then you have to start emulating what other people do that's better than you.
Yeah,
you know,
see,
so
I can't do that. I'm
you
just
can,
stubborn.
you can. First of all, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I'm not going to do that.
I saw your stuff out here.
Yeah.
You're on point.
Well, I'm stubborn with it. I don't want to do what other people are doing. I want to do what I'm doing.
No, there's certain things that you do that if you look at other people that like if they have like bigger businesses than you go, all right, I'm gonna take bits and pieces from that.
I'm with you.
Yeah. It's just like on YouTube, fine. I don't want to, if I don't want a bubbly personality, you don't have to do that. That's fine.
Right.
But there are plenty of what I learned, and it is a humbling experience, is that like there's gonna be people that do what you do better than you. And then when that happens, then
I don't know about me, but yeah, keep going.
No, you're the top echelon. I'm not talking about you. You are uncommon amongst uncommon men.
I am better at being a ball of anxiety and fear than I'm
Story of my
better
life.
at that than anyone.
Yes. But there's a good example is a channel called Goon Squad. There are two guys out in Tennessee, and they do these rebuilds, and their channel blew like they're more than 1 million subscribers. They surpassed me. But the thing is, they are I think they're like teenagers. They're I think the oldest one might be 20 or so, in his 20s. And they just have so much energy. They do all the stuff with iPhones. Like they have very minimal editing, but their editing is good. Like it keeps people engaged. And they do stuff that isn't on the scope of what I do. Like I do, I'm taking a fire damaged Ferrari, I'm turning it into a hardtop, and then I might put like a Lamborghini engine in it, like something like that. They do, all right, we're gonna take a car that's maybe crashed, and then we're just gonna restore it to OEM. We're gonna go to the dealer. We're gonna get dealer parts. We might put an exhaust on it, or might put wheels on it, but then that's it. And then it's on to the next project, just like going. And that works for a lot of people because they know exactly what they're gonna get when they look up one of those videos. And that's one of the things I struggled with, because I always try to adapt, and I always try to find something different that people are doing. Like, because those people, like, they might be the top of the heap now, but then the second somebody else comes along and has like a better mousetrap for that thing that they're doing, then it's like, all right, now it's going down. Like the whole thing with Doug DeMuro. Doug DeMuro's rise was like, it was incredible, and he still gets a ton of views. But there were car reviewers that were getting the same amount of views, but now they're going down. You know, like they plateaued, and then nobody cares because now Doug DeMuro has a better mousetrap.
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's a bit of contriving of the content to compete in this game, right?
I wouldn't even say it's competition, because I don't, people make it out to be a competition more than it actually is a competition. So in my comments, I'll see that if I have a ton of projects, and if they're not finished, or I'm stuck in one place, or if I'm waiting on parts, then people go, oh well, if this other channel would have had it done, blah blah blah. Like, okay, then watch that other channel. Like, what exactly do you want from me? Like, there's so many different, like we're just different people. They have different schedules, that we're working on different cars. So it's
So comments, what does that do to you?
What it does to anybody.
Which ones get you?
I think the comments that get me are the ones that have that are true.
Okay.
It's not the like, oh, you're so stupid, you need to
you're
go
fat,
down
you're ugly, you're dumb, you're forget it. Those are just ignorant people. Whatever
like latches onto your insecurity, and then you go, they got a point. Crap. Okay. That sort of gets me. It's more, it's not like, oh, I hate everything you do. It's more like, listen, I'm a big fan, but I think you didn't. I think you could have tried a little harder on this one. Like that really gets me.
And then you immediately like start to rebel against them. Like, no, you like, I always want to prove them wrong. Like,
every once in a while, I'm like, no, and then I think in my head, it's usually ego driven, that response. That like, no, how can they say this to me? And like, and then you go, all right, they're right. I need to kind of get my crap together. So
let's talk about, like, let's say the Lamborghini. So you buy the car for what, $70,000 or something.
It was 64, yeah.
And then you do you actually sit down and like do an accounting, keeping a running tally of what you spent on it, or do you try to ignore that?
I ignore that as much as humanly possible. That's how you do it. That's how you do it with projects.
Okay, I'm with you there. I do the same thing on my 1M or my M3. I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah. You never want to know that number. Right. Actually, at the end of the project, I do like a rough accounting. I think I spent on that project to get it running and driving and kind of finished. It was like 91 grand, including the cost of the car. So 6-speed manual, twin turbo Lamborghini Gallardo, with everything basically new, turbo system built from scratch, and tuned, for 91 grand. That's not horrible. But the accounting thing is like, I'm in a really unique situation, and a lot of YouTubers that do the same thing are in a unique situation because you can afford to overpay for cars now. Like it wasn't like, I still look for deals because that's just sort of how I'm hardwired. But I can, if a car is at what the retail market is, like I can pay above that because that's now going to be a source of income for me. And it's not going to be a source of income for somebody that's just wanting to rebuild it and flip it. Like they have to have a margin underneath that threshold. But if I'm into it 91 grand, but the car's only worth 80, it's okay because I have, AdSense and sponsors and whatever. This is going to make me money for the next foreseeable future. So that's a little bit of a different, thing now. And I think those kinds of projects are skewing the market a little bit. So now you see, if you go on Copart, everyone is doing like a Copart build on YouTube and trying to make it, trying to get like a big following. So you see Copart prices on cars that are kind of popular, and they're going insane. They're just going nuts. There was I did a thing with another YouTuber, Sam Crack. He's out in Tampa, and we went to a Copart auction over here in Orlando, and we took a look around the yard, and they had a Lamborghini Huracan LP610, and it was pretty interesting because like it had some front damage, but it was very light, and then they also had all the parts to fix it. So they had like a bunch of boxes with like brand new parts, and then it was an insurance car. I guess the guy didn't want to keep it or something, and it was like diminished value, so they just put it up on the lot. And then me and Sam made videos, and each of those got like almost 500,000 views each. So that's gonna
just shopping for it. You didn't even buy it.
No, yeah, just shopping for it.
Yeah.
And then that's gonna increase the amount of people that look at that car. So that increases the price of the car. So I think somebody paid. Well, there's a YouTube channel. They do like collision and repairs and stuff. They paid 128 grand for that car, and that I think that is the record for like a Huracan.
It was smashed.
Yeah, like a salvage Huracan. I think that's the record, because you can buy a really good condition used one for like 190 or something.
Yeah.
So your margin ain't that great.
Right, and you're not really sure, is this fixable? Like you go into it.
Yeah. It's a total. I mean, there's certain things like
you look it over, but until you get in there, and
it was fixable. I have no idea. When you're in that echelon of people willing to pay $200,000 for the car, like it's not going to be worth 200 grand. It's not gonna, because it has a salvage title. So let's say you're down to 160, 170. So now you go from 130 to 170. You have 40 grand to play with. You got to hope that all the parts are there. Right. So unless you're doing a YouTube channel, which these guys are, I'm not sure how successful they are. I haven't really taken a look at them. But unless you're doing a YouTube channel, you can't. It doesn't make any sense to do that.
I just struggle with crowdsourcing ideas, crowdsourcing videos to make. I don't know. And that's probably what will always hold me back.
What do you mean crowdsourcing?
Like crowdsourcing ideas. Like now all these people copying you about going to Copart. No one even knew what frickin' Copart was.
Right.
Like I never even heard that word, that company before. Now everybody, every 12 to 22-year-old in the United States of America knows exactly what Copart is. That's interested in cars.
It's a junkyard where you can buy cars. That's basically what it is. And Copart has kind of cornered the market because there's other salvage auctions.
Sure.
But it's like a Band-Aid. It's not a Band-Aid, just a Band-Aid. And now they have some sort of brand recognition, and that's why prices are going up. But like the smart people that go salvage auction hunting, They don't go to Copart. They go to there's an IAAI.
Local or
Yeah. But there's other like big chains that don't get as much.
I'm sure smart guys have insurance agents kind of that they are friends with, they have relationships with, they know when cars are coming.
Yeah, so I'm actually working out a deal with the people that gave me a bunch of parts for my Ferrari build. They actually are starting a insurance company.
Yeah.
And what they do, instead of going to the salvage auctions, like now they insure those cars. And now they can pay the people out directly, and they get those cars basically at cost. And then since they know those cars so well, they can also do warranty work, so they'll have spare parts. They can tell people if their car is actually totaled or not, because they know exactly how these cars work. So it just kind of saves people money, and it's also like it's a lot more efficient way of dealing with this. Like instead of an adjuster going out and seeing a scratch on your quarter panel, they'll go, "Oh, we need to do the whole quarter panel." Like they might go, "Yeah, quarter panel is $1,500 off a salvage car. It's not really that bad. We can do it."
So this is one of the things my business coach talked about a lot, or always talks to me a lot about.
You have a business coach?
Yeah,
I want a business coach. How do you get one of those?
I'll introduce you if you want.
Oh yeah,
it's the best decision I ever made in my life.
Oh, okay. I like best decisions ever.
You're too cheap though. You'd never pay him what he costs.
That's true. That's true.
So what you do is you sell to the masses, and then you're able to build a larger business. Sell to the masses, live with the classes. That's the old quote. So
that sounds very antiquated.
But it's true
yes.
in that what you're doing in you're not selling anything per se. You're selling content.
Yes.
But you're selling aspirations to a lot of people who probably will never own a Lamborghini.
Right.
That they could say, well, shoot, this is how I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably couldn't even swing the 60.
Right.
But 60 sounds a lot better than
60's
460.
a Corvette. 60's a Corvette.
Right.
People, if you put that into account, 60's not 300,
Right.
So it becomes a little bit better. And maybe you don't want a Lamborghini. Maybe you want something a little more affordable. Like now you can get, a sports car that might have cost 50, and you can look at one that's a little bit more, haggard or neglected, and you can bring that back and you can spend half that money,
Because my wager is, like, for instance, my channel's based on, a lot of people think like I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so same thing with you, same with anybody who's interested.
Right.
So
right.
I watch your channel because of you.
Right,
I don't give a crap about buying some stinky old car and trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And so when I watch it, I'm interested in you and and what you're doing and how you're doing it. I just want to come there and follow you with a vacuum cleaner, because no matter what you're doing, the carpets and everything is always all dirty. Because I know you're like, I'll just get to it when I'm done.
Door's always open, man.
I want to come
Door's
and
always
just clean up while you're working. but I find that I wonder for you, I want your take on this. How long are you going to be able to, because as your channel grows, as you become more personally affluent, you'll always be cheap. I know you'll always be frugal, let's call it, not cheap.
Well, yeah, I don't consider myself cheap. I consider myself looking like value seeking. So bang for the buck, like I'll spend $100,000 on something, but it has to be worth that amount in my head.
So I would never, I'd rather just buy the new one. I'd rather go to the dealership, buy the new one. You would never do that, or you wouldn't want to do that.
I was thinking about that on the way here, because we talked about this on the last time I was here. Having something new, there's like a sterility to it.
I like that.
There's like a clean, tabula rasa type thing. With me, I'm more about adding to this car's story. Does this car have a story to begin with? Is that something where it's like a phoenix that rises from the ashes, sometimes literally?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's new, I just find that boring. Like there's a few cars that I would buy new. One of them is the one you got.
Mm-hmm.
Is a GT3 RS. That car is freaking awesome. And honestly, I like yours better than the new one. Don't tell Adam LZ.
The front bumper's a little.
The front, I hate the front bumper in the new one.
And the like the Nakaducks look a little funky, and then the side intakes, they kind of poke out and stuff. Yeah,
I think yours, they got it 100%. I think that car looks great from all angles.
Yeah, take the 4-liter from the new one and put it in the old one, and I think you got something.
Oh yeah, of course. But there is, like, when you buy a car new, there is that just thing in your head that this is just like, this is clean. That never really appealed to me, and I understand why it appeals to a lot of people. And it's not just because somebody farted in the seats before you, like that's like an argument that gets, that's not real. But it's like, it's just a mental thing, right?
The story, you're involved in the story.
Well, you start the story.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you don't end the story by, with it crashing or something, and then I buy it, and then I add to that story.
So what happens as, my wager on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I see your hands are all beat up. You're just busting knuckles every day.
Now because I just finished the Bentley engine out, and like my hands are a little bit more beat up than they usually would be.
So what happens when that passion does passion run out on that? You become the disgruntled auto mechanic?
No. So I was thinking about that on the way here too. I don't want to be the auto mechanic because that is a very like you get put in a box. And then you can go from here to here. I'm pantomiming like a small area. Basically, this is your range. I'd rather be a storyteller with these auto, like I do reviews. I like to think I can write. And it's just about presenting something that's interesting to people. So whether or not I'm working on cars, that's inconsequential. Like I like working on cars. Sometimes I hate working on, it's just working with your hands. Sometimes
you're 6 hours in and you can't fix it.
Yeah, and it's hot and you got to oil. Yeah, it's like, it sucks. But if I'd like to be somebody that can show people why this particular thing I'm talking about is interesting and important and why they should care. So when this all, like, let's say I can't, something happens and I don't have the use of my hands anymore. I've always been thinking about that where I need an exit strategy, right? And even on YouTube, like let's say like everything's fine and like I still can use my hands. I just don't want to. Like I just get tired, or I just want to spend time with my family, or just kind of retire on an island somewhere. Then you need an exit strategy. And with a channel called Tavarish, which is literally just me, that's hard because it's not like I could sell Tavarish to somebody else.
Right.
But that's why I started another channel called Wrench Every Day, and I want to put way more effort into that because that's something where I can bring other people in, and it doesn't have to be the Tavarish show. It has, it can be somebody else that also brings skills and charisma and just projects to the table. So with that, I think that's kind of the exit strategy where I can branch out and make perhaps brands that we can partner with tools or hand cleaners or just like different merch, and that's how I see this going. Tavarish will eventually, it'll hopefully it goes up more, and then at some point it'll plateau, and then
maybe not. I mean, look at Chris Fix. I mean, he just continues to.
Well, Chris is one of I talk to Chris pretty regularly. He is like one of the hardest working people I've ever known. Like he's a crazy individual. Like he is again uncommon amongst uncommon men. He and like Doug DeMuro have a lot in common because they're like laser focused. Even if like their entire life is crumbling around them, like they will do this one thing. And just the amount of detail that he puts into his videos, as far as like letting people know every single detail. And it's stuff like, I'm watching him do like fix a wheel bearing on a Mustang. I don't care about that. I don't think a million people care about that, but they look at it because that video is so well done. It's very thorough, and it goes beginning, middle, and end. It's like we started out with this old crusty wheel bearing, and now look at it. It's out with the old and in with the new. That sort of thing. So I think it's. Chris also has an issue where he can't, you can't sell that to a company. You can't. If I wanted to sell Tavarish to a TV network, like it's not gonna happen.
So, do you feel pressure to do videos to get them, put them out?
Every once in a while, yeah. But I had a sort of epiphany. It was like hour, who knows, on this Bentley project, and then I'm just like walking around. You get to the point in a project where you just stand there staring
Mm-hmm.
at the thing, and you're just thinking, and then you start realizing like, I've been here for 15 minutes and I haven't done anything. So I just started walking around my shop and looking all these projects that need one thing or another, and what's this need, how much is going to take. And then I just thought to myself, like, I don't have to do this.
Right.
Like that's one of the biggest things that I've ever, like, anybody that, like, if you're stuck in a dead end job or whatever, you might have responsibilities, right?
Right.
Like, like get those taken care of. But like, at the very least, like, you don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it's something you don't want to do. And then I started thinking, like, why do I do this? And it's because I want to do it. Like when I was a kid, or working in my parents' driveway, just fixing my own car, I would dream of a point where I'd have this like 5,000 square foot shop with lifts and supercars and stuff, and all I did all day was just work on them because I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at that point now. And then if it's, I'm not gonna complain because, like, oh, it's hot, So I think realizing that it's a enormous opportunity, and also the world's not gonna end if I don't put out a video on Monday, And if I have to delay it because something gets delayed, then so be it. It'll hurt the bottom line, but then you can make it up in other ways. So I'm not too concerned about that. I know that there are a lot of people that have surpassed me in views and subscribers and stuff. That's because they do like very like consistent stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to realize that they're usually half my age. There's more than one of them, or they're doing projects that aren't on the same scale or scope or whatever. And there's differences,
Mm-hmm.
And some people just work a lot. Like, they are just machines. They can do that. Like, I can do stuff. I'll work for 4 days, and then I'll just go to the shop and I go, yeah, this isn't happening. I'm just gotta take 1 day off, go play Red Dead Redemption or something, because it's like, otherwise I'm gonna make a really bad mistake and like an engine's gonna fall on my head.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of also making room for family. When you get older, you realize that that's sort of the important thing. You have a family that you have to take care of. Like, I don't have any kids. You have kids, but if I do have kids, then I don't want to be the guy that's like away all the time. I don't want to be the guy that's like all in the shop all the time, even though that's probably going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to always make some room, especially for wives, because they tend to want attention every once in a while. a little bit. Yeah.
So, the pressure is not a big deal for you, so because you have all these darn projects.
Mm-hmm.
You got like 37 of them going on at one time.
Oh, it's only 13.
Only 13.
Yeah,
only 13.
It's only 13.
37 was a Matty estimation there, but shoot.
37 on the Matt scale, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about you, because I see this often where people talk about they use the word influencer in a negative connotation, right? Influencer, because there are 18-year-olds that have like 2,200 Instagram followers, and they title themselves as CEO of their influencer business and all of that.
I love those hashtag rise and grind, professional entrepreneurs,
right. That kind of struggle porn or struggle hustle or whatever it's called. Right. So
free webinar, yeah.
So what does it look like for you, like let's say on a typical day, where you have to edit, you have a video, you're talking to sponsors? So take me through like an average Tuesday. What does that look like?
All right, so I wake up around, like, depending on if I have to do edits or not, I tend to edit in the morning if it's a video that I know it's not going to take that long. Last night, because I knew I was coming here, I knew I wouldn't be editing in the morning, so I edited yesterday from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And then went to sleep for however long. But usually I wake up 8 to 9 ish.
Do you set? Are you an alarm setter?
Yeah. I mean, I try to. And I'm really not a morning person, but it's just kind of what you have to do. So I edit for until noon. I try to get the videos out before, like, at noon.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to, my internet's garbage, so I have to leave about an hour for uploading and rendering. So, just in case something happens. So try to get done by 11, so between 8 and 11. And it sometimes goes on longer, but then I'll just put out a video later on. After that, just have lunch, then go to the shop, work on whatever I need to work on. If I need to make a video, then I'll make a video or start it or whatever. In that time, I'll answer emails, usually, sign contracts with sponsors or something like that. Fan emails, all that stuff. I read through them. Like, I used to be, the guy that responds to everything, but it's to such a degree that it's just insane. I get emails, I get a ton of Instagram DMs. I stopped messages on Facebook because I just wouldn't check. There would be so many that I just wouldn't check them. And Facebook doesn't make it that easy to check your messages on your pages from your So I just stopped messages there. And also Twitter and all that stuff, but you have to do that while you're doing all this other stuff. So then I go and to the shop, check out what I need to do. If the shop needs cleaning, I'll clean it. If by I'd say 8 or 9-ish, I'm done filming or doing whatever I need to do, and then come back home. Sometimes I'll export the footage because you use the same camera as I do, the GH5S, and they have really big file sizes. So sometimes it takes 40 minutes to do a whole SD card. So I do that the night before, and then when I wake up, you try to go to sleep by 12 or 1 or something like that, and then wake up and kind of do the same thing. But
you podcast at times too, right?
Yeah. So Andrew comes over. We do a podcast in the morning. We try to do 2 or 3 episodes, and then I do the editing for the podcast, which is just cutting up into clips, and then releasing them on the thing, and then I have to do the Wrench Every Day, which is the second channel, and also do the work for that. So, yeah.
So when do you hire, or why haven't you hired somebody to help you?
So I'm working on that. On Wrench Every Day, I'm looking at getting a third guy. Because Andrew is he's great on camera, but he's a little bit of a novice when it comes to working on cars. I can't just tell him to go take that engine out. He knows what he's doing, but not to the degree where I can really tell him to do a task and he won't come back with a bunch of questions. So in the interest of time and efficiency, I think one of my friends that I did this rally with, his name is Jared. We're going to do a little bit of a trial run to see how this works. So we're going to basically knock out my Supra in 3 days. So this is engine out, rebuild, 6-speed swap, turbo, standalone, wiring, fuel system, all that stuff in 3 days. And he is super motivated. He knows a ton about cars. He's done 1,000 engine swaps. And he's hungry. He's hungry for this sort of stuff. And he's also my age, and he has a wife, so he understands what the risks are. And he's a totally good dude. We get along really well. So I'm thinking of having him on the second channel as I'm not sure if you're familiar with Cletus McFarlane's channel, but
sure.
Cletus has a Cooper, who doesn't really do work, but he's a mainstay in the channel. And then he has James, and James is the guy who wrenches, right? And they all have their different dynamics, and that really works for them. And I think that could be the same thing for Wrench Every Day. And that means that if there's a project where there has to be some work done, I don't have to be there. I could be there, I could do moral support, I can do the wrenching, or if I don't need to be there, I don't need to be there. I can focus on my other stuff, and then we'll just have them do it. And that's my goal, for me to just kind of not disappear. I'll still be on the channel, but for me not to have such a prominent role. So that's as far as hiring people, it's I'm really averse to liability. I hate taking on I hate adding complexity to which is weird because I have a ton of projects that are really complex. When you add complexity with people, that's when it gets a little bit chaotic. So when you let's say, you can add efficiency here by adding another person. However, that other person now comes with its own set of problems.
Sure.
Like, what happens if they get hurt? What happens if they have like a family issue? What happens if they turn out to be a complete, a jerk 6 months down the line? And like the second you start to make actual money, then they start like, being like they change personalities. What happens if they leave? What happens to the channel? So that's a lot of questions. If I just do it myself, I know all these answers.
Yeah, there are some advantages to that. All these questions can be answered.
Of course, these aren't impossible questions.
This is where coaching, comes in.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have a lot of experience, hiring.
Can you be my free business coach, Matt, please? Tell me what the guy told you, and then I will not pay you.
I would probably mess it up and tell it, paraphrase it, and leave out the important part.
Sure. It's a game of telephone. It's okay. I just need like 30% of it.
Yeah, you need to hire 8 people tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. It's bold.
Yeah. So the reason I ask that is because I can hear in your voice and see in your business that there are, that there are efficiencies that you could provide or add leverage to yourself.
Yeah.
With little to no, if you find the right people.
That's the hardest part. That is the hardest part.
But those people, they're not hiding. Bryce wasn't hiding.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to let people know what you're looking for. And then, Bryce and I have Ironclad Agreements.
Mm-hmm.
We have agreements in place. But I don't even.
You did the blood oath?
Well, a lot of that stuff
just like your finger's still bleeding. Like, yeah.
A lot of it doesn't even matter because he's the right person.
Yeah.
He's the right person for the position.
Mm-hmm.
And Ted out there is the right person for the position.
Yes.
Everybody that's installed has, because there are so many people. And these people aren't hiding from you.
Right.
That if you find, you just have to learn how to find those, how to identify that person when they show up.
That's a skill. So I tend to think that I'm a decent enough judge of character, but with business, things can. So let's put it like this: if you hire a person, they're doing one job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm looking at this as like I'm taking on another person, I'm looking for essentially a partner. I'm looking for somebody that is me.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah. So that's really hard to find because I have no idea what I'm, how to look for me.
You don't. I don't think you want that. Partnerships rarely work, especially if you're going to want somebody inexpensive to come in, and you're going to want to cultivate them, and then chances are, if they're good, they want to be you.
Yeah.
And so they want to compete with you.
I mean, that's with how I'm working with Andrew. He brought stuff to the table that I didn't have. And like what I like is that we complement each other as far as skills and personalities, because his personality is different from mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that, as we work together, we grow into this new thing. Mm-hmm. It sounds a little, weird, but it's okay. Just go with it. The same thing with if I bring on another person. However, it's a little bit different than just hiring somebody like, oh, I need you to sweep the, shop. Mm-hmm. And then that's your job. And I will pay you money. And then that is what you do. And you can be really good at what you do. And it's fine. It makes everything more efficient. But with a partnership, now it's like, do we have the same goals? What happens long term? And I've had partnerships in the past that have been great, like that have been awesome. But I know that a lot of people have had partnerships where it's like, it just falls apart.
It's just a lot more difficult to manage that, especially when money is involved. And if you're fortunate to have some success, it can become much more problematic. Inevitably somebody's working harder than the other person, or the one person feels like they're working harder than the other person. That's
sure.
And that's where having a coach or having a conversation around that often you have to address the difficult things.
I'm thinking when it comes to stuff like that, like one person's working harder than the other, it can breed resentment if those people have a large, like a big, an inflated view of themselves. So it's like I bring so much value to this, and you're not doing anything. Me, I'm always with a mindset like I'm fine with being, the one that kind of bears the burden. Like right now with the Wrench Everyday stuff, like I pay for everything. It's from my shop, like all the cars and stuff I buy. but I know it's because primarily this is about me getting to a different place, you know? And those people that I'm with, I'm fine with, you know, pulling them up, and then, you know, it's going to sound weird, like in my wake, but like, you know, with, I do have a social media following.
You're mentoring. Yeah. Right.
Sure. I'm fine with being that, but also at some point they also have to be, you know, like bring something to the table. And I've done that with businesses where, you know, I said, I'll do all the upfront costs, you know, like I'll do this, like you don't have to pay me back or whatever, but this is what you have to bring. And then it works out because, you know, when you start making money, then they become like an actual partner, you know? So, I've been lucky. I've been fortunate that I've found people that have contributed in that way. But it's just when you add more and more people to that equation, then it starts like
now you have right now you're managing people. You have an HR department and you know
exactly. But it's basically like a board of directors, and like at one point, you know, what you've created, now they can kick you out. You know, that's something where it's like, well, that's great.
I can tell you this right now: the way I'm structured, no one's freaking kicking me out of anything.
Oh no, yeah. But it's like what Matt Ferris says: can't get fired productions. You know.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where, let's say, you know, I have a channel, I have the Wrench Everyday channel, and then I bring on, you know, more people, and then they just don't want to do what I want to do. Right. And then, you know, what leverage do I have if they're like, if they're
that's where, if they're an employee, Bryce doesn't have a freaking choice. You know, it's my decision. You know, I want him to have autonomy.
He just cut off the stream, by the way. He just I want computers on the floor.
I want him to have the ability to, you know, to grow and to transition roles and to promote himself. But I don't, you know, he doesn't have the ability to shut it down.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. So that's also a concern.
So that comes back to structure, culture, you know, building culture, and things like that. And but it's also something that you'd mentioned. It is a lot harder. It's a lot harder to manage all these people. You manage emotions. You got to manage, you know, vacation time. You've got to manage bookkeeping. And so that's not my strong suit. So then I hired another person to do that.
Right. Yeah.
And then another person. But one thing you'll notice here is no one is doing every role. And so for you as the person that's threaded this all, this is where, you know, I've gotten really solid advice over the years. What I thought I wanted a bunch of mini-me's, like a bunch of, we talked about this in the beginning of this conversation, where you want a bunch of people that can do everything, that can grow into a partnership type role. The concern there, the issue there, the bigger, longer term issue, you can get them cheaper because they can do more, and then you can have them grow into and pay for themselves.
Yeah, but then they go out and just do it.
Right, then they're going to go create, you know, Avarish, you know, or some, you know,
exactly.
or you know, Better of Garage or something like that, where they go try, and then they just cause. They're not you. Yeah. But they try to cause disruption. You know?
Exactly.
That's the bigger risk.
Yeah. Like if they're good enough to do what I do, why don't they just do what I do? You know, that's one of the things. When I look for partners, I don't look for people that are me, essentially, because I understand, like, I put a lot of stress and pressure on myself to do stuff, because I'm like, I tend to micromanage things, which I probably shouldn't. But when I look for people that I partner with, I look for skill sets that I don't have.
Yeah,
and I look for ways of thinking that I don't think of. That's the most important thing. So if they have a thinking process, like the way they talk or whatever, if it's completely different from me, that means that they can think of ideas that I can't think of. Like, it won't even occur to me. So that's more important to me than anything else. That they can do the same things, and, you know, anybody can pay bills, right? Anybody can, like, if they have a skill set where they can work on cars, that's great. That's fine. But a lot of people have that.
Right.
But if you have things where you're always coming up with ideas, or saying like, hey, maybe we can do this and this will look good, and like that, you know, this idea would probably work out, like that's worth way more to me than any, you know, like, position where I just kind of, all right, I'm going to pay you, you're going to be the editor, and then, you know, you can promote from there. So that's and those people are increasingly hard to find. But when you do find them, you have to keep them, you know. And at that point, you know, I don't want to be a manager. I want to be, you know, a partner. So, like, we're equal in this. Like, every time I do a partnership, even if I upfront the cost, I always do like a 50-50 split because it keeps both people in the game. It doesn't breed resentment. Like if I did like, all right, 80-20 because I'm paying for everything and blah, blah, like I understand that it's going to be more money out of my pocket, but I'd rather not have that person resent me because they go like, well, that guy's making 4 times as much. And, I brought this idea to the table, but, so I don't want to deal with any of that.
That's understandable. So let's talk about sponsorship and relevance.
Okay.
So you've done this from the beginning, where you've as soon as anyone would pay you something, not right from the very beginning, but
right.
But so you're doing things that brands that have money. First of all, you have to deal with brands that have money to do it.
Yes.
Right. And so you're already dealing with, and then you have to have brands that have money to do it, that understand modern social media, understand the value of that. But
honestly, I think it's more about brands with money, because you can actually convince brands with money that have no idea how social media works to give you money.
Well, so that's the question. So you're having to use a lot or promote or talk about a lot of weird crap.
So I try to make it as natural as possible. There are a few things that kind of stop the video dead in its tracks, and it's usually like video games.
Clash of Clans or something like that.
Something like that. And those are the thing is, those, they make so much money, and they're usually, I mean, they're a good source of, because there's a really good overlap between people, guys who like cars and guys who play games. So it's a natural thing for them. And then people understand that this keeps the lights on. This is what allows me to do this kind of stuff. And I get very little complaints of people saying, oh, you're like selling out, man. Like, how do you think I afford an $80,000 Lamborghini? Like, it's not, I don't just go to the money tree and they don't just fall off.
So how do they determine how much they pay you? I mean, you be as candid as you want. People are interested in this kind of stuff. How do they determine how much you get?
So usually the way it works, there's a few different models. One is a CPM, which is like the more that they sell, or no, the more that the more views you get. Let's say you have a video that gets 500,000 views, and then you have a CPM of a certain rate. They're going to pay you on that viewership. And then you have a system where it's like just a lump sum, where they go, we're going to pay you this amount of money. It's just a sum of cash.
Yep.
And then produce a video, because based on your previous videos, this is basically where the views are going to be on your builds. And then you have a system where it's like affiliates. So in your link, it's tied to them selling product. So those tend to do the worst, just because there's not going to be a lot of people buying stuff. In order, you know exactly how it is. Like, in order to incentivize a click, that click-through rate is going to be, let's say a really good click-through rate is 10%, right? Really good click-through rate. But then of those 10%, people that
buy, right?
Yeah, how many people buy? Like, and it's, unless it's a high-margin item, unless you're buying, a $350 set of buckets that everyone should get, by the way, on obsessedgarage.com, then you're not buying something. It's usually like some Amazon thing for $6.95, and like you need tens of thousands for this to actually make a decent amount of money, and then that doesn't.
Well, and here's the thing: you may be building a brand. Let's say that the XYZ company, they start advertising on your channel, and this is where it's flawed in that you need to make brand it. You need to really do it for a year or two, and then they'll start to see click-through. So click-throughs become powerful later on, and even then, a lot of people don't remember to use a click-through. They may buy it because you told them to.
Yeah. So that's why I always I don't do CPM, I don't do affiliates. I always do just a lump sum,
pre-negotiated up front.
Yeah, because like, this is the value that I'm bringing to you. If you don't like that value, we can negotiate it, and then we'll go from there, because there's somebody could be watching this 2 years from now.
So what's the range?
So the I mean, it all depends, because the range. Let's preface this, because the range gets like ridiculous.
I'm sure. Like a Chris Fix is going to have a much different range than you. You are going to have a much different range than me.
Yeah. Well, sure. So my videos get between 300 and 500,000 views. On average, like the regular video.
Sure.
The ask for a sponsored video would range between, let's say, $5,000 up to, like, say, $20,000. But that is like top echelon, like almost never gonna
somebody
happen.
has too much money that some private equity firm dumped a bunch of money in some weird product.
Yeah, exactly. Like some VC went nuts, and they're like, we gotta all the podcasts, all the YouTubers, blah blah, just bam, bam, bam. So those happen very rarely, but getting sponsors is it does keep the lights on, and when you talk about money in this way, a lot of people, like, you have to temper it in the fact that not, most people don't make that kind of money in a month, And
well, a lot of people that watch my channel do. Maybe that, again, if you're selling to the masses, this is where it gets problematic. This is why I'm so fascinated by this.
Sure. Well, then again, I mean, selling to the masses, but like, on paper, I have 2 Lamborghinis, a Ferrari, a Bentley, 2 Mercedes, a Supra, and like, this is not, if you told anybody that didn't know anything about me that I have these cars, like, oh, this guy must be loaded. Like, no, not really. It's just like every single one is like the cheapest in the country, and they've been on fire, and it's like half of it's missing, and blah blah. So, when you talk about money, that really changes people's perceptions of you. Like, oh, well, you're making more than I am, or like, it's not even you're making more than I am. You're making more than I think you should make.
Yeah.
So,
but and this is the part that people don't understand, that the power and value. Imagine what Anheuser-Busch spends to run commercials on primetime television.
It's insane.
And they get a lot of most shows get less viewership than one video of yours.
I was I was talking to one of the guys, like they had a show on one of these kind of cable TV shows, TV networks. And I said, what's a good viewership rate for you? And they were like, we'd be over the moon at like 200,000. Like that would be like amazing.
But they have no idea how many people are watching. There's no way to know that. They have these stupid like
Nielsen boxes or whatever.
Bull crap. Yeah.
So let's say 200,000. Let's say they can extrapolate it or whatever.
Right.
They go like 200,000 people watch your video, and they're like, that is really good.
And
for that, people,
and then what are the rates? What's the rate?
Like, I'm willing to bet they're paying 50 to 100,000 for something like that.
Right.
And you can go on YouTube where you can get all the demographics. You can get something that's laser focused into what you're looking at.
You know exactly how many people are watching.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's CPM and whatever you call it. What do they call it? Impressions, right?
Yeah.
Impressions.
Anytime anybody says impressions, I know that they have no idea what they're talking about. It's like, how many impressions do you get? Like, what's an impression? You define impression for me. It's like, what an impression is that you scroll past it and then that's it. Whoa, you got 5 billion impressions. Like, but I only made $6. What happened? But sponsors definitely, they are a big part of this. And I don't think you can survive. You can definitely survive, but you're not going to be doing stuff like, what I'm doing, because I spend a considerable amount of what I make on my cars.
Sure.
So it's not like I have this extraordinary lifestyle outside. Like, I literally just sleep at my house, go to the shop, and then buy more car parts every day.
Right.
So,
but that'll be interesting to see how this transitions for you when that, if it continues and you continue to get the numbers and you continue to grow, and and then you graduate to the next echelon of income.
Sure.
And it'd be interesting to see how that goes, how you transition that. And I
just burnt yachts.
Well, not even that. It's just have the ability that you don't have to do it anymore.
Well, I have that ability now. I mean, like, I still have to do something. I'm not, I haven't like retired yet, but I don't think that there's ever going to be a point where I don't need to do this, so I'm gonna kick my feet up and then not do anything, because that's gonna be a boring existence. I'd rather have like. There's a little endorphin rush that I get when I have a project or a problem that needs solving, or when I find more problems, even though it might be annoying and it might be, oh, this is going to be expensive or something, I get a little bit, that little guy in your head that goes, yeah. Like
is it the result that you like, or is it the
no it's solving problems. It's
Yeah.
solving the problem. It's finding solutions to issues that nobody has. So it's like, you can't Google this. I can't go, hey, what do I need to take off in my Bentley Continental engine bay that's making it a stick? Like, 'cause nobody's gonna. There's no Google that I can.
Forum for that. Yeah.
Nobody's doing that.
Right.
Or like, what's the best turbo? For my Lamborghini Gallardo. Like, that's not gonna be a thing. So you have to figure all that out. And then once you do, then you go, oh, now I know how to do this one thing. Now I know how to do this thing that nobody can do, and now I can share this with other people so they know it. And I might not have done it, correctly, and people might say, "Oh, you can do this a different way," and now I know something new. So it's that's kind of like the most important thing, like just kind of problem solving.
Let me see what other questions did people have. I'm sure we got a lot, but I'm not even going to go on the questions on there because it's going to be too hard to figure out.
Oh yeah. Okay. There we go.
So let's see
Perfect.
here.
Perfect.
Love
Are we
bugs,
good? Are we good?
steamer.
Should we do like this?
AMGs.
Okay.
So they asked me which is what's a favorite?
What's my favorite car?
And what's my favorite of your cars?
Oh, that's
none of them.
Yeah, it's gonna be none of them. It's gonna be zero of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I've got the cars that I want. I want a
Exactly,
GT3 and a GT3 RS, and I'm pretty simple.
I'm pretty sure if you wanted a fire damaged Lambo, you could probably afford one.
I don't want one.
Exactly. You don't
I don't want a Lambo, let alone a fire damaged Lambo.
You don't want Lambos? You don't like Lambos?
Zero desire. No. If you gave me an SV, I'd sell it.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a little. It doesn't fit you.
It's a little Type A for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have the Murcielago, and it's, man, that car is outlandish. Like, it's real. Like, I'm a pretty conservative dude.
Yeah.
And it's orange, and the doors go up, and it's super loud, and it's so, like, you're sitting when you drive it, it's like you're sitting off to the side, and it's real. Like, there's a lot of rules associated with this car. It's an A to A car. You can't really take it on road trips. It's kind of bumpy.
It's lacking engineering, and it's more about style and
well, the engineering is very agricultural. It's like,
yeah, it's a good word.
Yeah,
for it.
it's very, you think it's this carbon fiber sports car, and like there's a lot of parts that are made of carbon fiber, and it's all this bespoke stuff. But then you look past that veneer, and it's like angle iron. It's 4,000 pounds. Everything is super heavy duty. This engine is one that they derived from like 1963, and it's basically like their Chevy small block.
Yeah.
And they've updated it, and they made it a little better, but it's the same basic design. So
not my bag.
I like it. I like the lunacy of it. I like the fact that it's just kind of like kind of stupid. It's stupid, and people don't take it seriously. What I don't like is maybe the Ferrari guy that has like, I have the 458 Speciale Aperta, and I can't, I have to wipe it with a cloth diaper, and like if I get any more than 700 miles, it loses $100,000 in value. That's something I can never get on board with, because that's dumb. I like that you take your car, like your car is a top echelon of the Porsche 911, right? That is like the ultimate. But you go and drive it. Like you drive it all the time.
Well, people think that I don't because I make car washing videos, but I have 6,200 miles on the thing. I drove it down to Tavarish the other day to play volleyball. I drive it everywhere. I drive it every 4 days a week, 3 days a week.
Exactly, but you drive it all. Like the first time we met, you just showed up in the GT3 RS. Like, okay, I guess this.
But what I get flack for is I don't drive it at the track what it's built for. It's built to drive on concrete.
Yeah. First of all, who are these people that have
people who never own a $200,000 car? Yeah.
So I drove the Ferrari 430 Scuderia, but one that was converted to manual by guys at European Auto Group in San Antonio, Texas. They actually, after a 10-minute conversation with the owner, he drove it to my shop the next day. That's how like because I think I talked to him on Twitter or something like that, and then he messaged me. We had a conversation. He was like, I'm not doing anything this weekend. I got a trailer. We could just go. I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, let's do it. So he came down for a few days. I drove the car, and it was like absolutely amazing. But there are people that hate that car on the forum because that car was a track car and blah blah blah. That car is probably the best Ferrari I've ever, like the best manual car I've ever driven, because that car was never meant to be manual. Yeah. But since they made it like a super fast gearbox, it was like a single clutch, automated. It would shift in 60 milliseconds. But what that meant was the synchros were like super smooth. So like the gear shifts were even better than a F430 manual. So it's like the best manual the Ferrari never made. And I was in love with this car, and like I'd love to get one. It's just now they're like $200,000. I can't afford that. But with that, there's a bunch of people that go, this is a track car, and you have to go on the track, and like you can't do it. Like,
well,
what?
And it's also different. I mean, you if you're gonna go to the track, like my friend Rich just showed me a video of him, in his 991.2 GT3, $170,000 car, and he's trying to break the track record. Like he's always at the limit at all times.
Yeah.
And all it took was one little lapse, and he put it in the wall at 120, and the car was total. He walked away and then realized, look, because some people can go on the track and they can kind of, like, I could do that. I could go on it, just kind of drive.
Yeah.
But he's on there like full out at all times, no matter what.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't interest me. In order for the car to really perform at its best, most cars, you can't lift. You've got to stay in it on these long sweepers. And I'm not interested in that. I live life sitting right here. I'm an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
On the adrenaline scale.
Yeah.
So I don't need to go to 10
I could see your veins are just pumping. It's crazy.
I'm like,
it's insane.
That's just my life. That's the way I live it.
Yeah, we actually had to adjust the color. He's beat red right now.
So I don't need any extra. And so but I love, I prefer the way that a car like that delivers power, a track oriented car, if you will. Yeah. I'm always going to try to modify my cars to make them sound and feel and handle like that. Yeah. So when I do go out on a road, it's more fun to me.
I think that's where I'm at as well. The whole thing of taking your car to a track where it could just use a ton of brakes, ton of tires, and then there's a really good chance that you might go into the wall at 120. That doesn't really, I don't find that interesting.
Well, some people would argue that it's safer to be on the track doing that than on the street.
Yeah,
I'm not doing 120 on the street.
Yeah, I'm not doing 120 on the street. Like every once in a while, you'll push it, like around a corner, but you're not doing 10 tenths on a corner.
Certainly not. Right.
And I mean, some people are. They're nuts, but
I'm not. Right.
Yeah, I'm not either. And
that's okay.
I had a really fun conversation with my mom. She watched the Ferrari video where I'm going around, just going up like 455 or something, and it's twisty road, and I mean, motorcycles do this road at like 90 miles an hour. And I wasn't going that quickly, but the car revs out. It's a very like race car soundy car. And my mom's like, "Oh my God, you're putting yourself in danger," and blah blah. Like, listen, I know the road, I know the car. All the power's at the tippy top. Like it's 500 horsepower. 500 horsepower is a lot, but not really when it's like naturally aspirated and it's all the way at the top, and you're not at the top. You're living at like 350. That's where your life is. Like a BMW M3, E46, like has 330 horsepower, except for the fact that you're probably at around 200 all the time.
Right.
So, I drove that car where it would be entertaining for people. I'll go through some of the gears, but I'm not about to, take turns at 120 miles an hour because like, well, these Michelin tires were developed at the Nürburgring and blah, blah, I don't give a crap about. I just want to, feel the car, have a little bit of fun. And then that's it. Go to a residential area and then you slow down, look at how it handles bumps and whatever. And when you get out into like country roads where not, you can push it a little bit, but
For me, it's living in the lower range of my skill set. That's just more comfortable to me. And
of course,
but I get, some people are more, adrenaline. They get more of a rise out of it than I do.
No,
but,
I hate that.
But yeah, not my bag. But I still want the track focused car because it handles and performs and sounds the way I want it to sound.
Right.
Even though a 911 Turbo S I'd be better suited for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, maybe I think for the track experience, for that like raw experience, your car is probably the best. Turbo S is like it's more. Dare I say luxury? It's
a commuter, right?
It's a faster car.
Yeah.
Technically,
yeah.
It just doesn't feel faster.
Right.
So when I drove my my Gallardo, I take it out every once in a while, and you kind of get the feeling that like if you stay in it, it becomes like you get to that point where it's scary fast. It's like, okay, this is way too fast. Like this is dumb. Like there's no reason why I need to do this.
Right.
So if I know that limit for myself, then I can back it off.
Right.
But if it's somebody that just goes, they go, all right, I want to know what this car's like when I floor it, and I just keep it floored. Like that's if you're not ready for that, then you're gonna have a bad time.
Bite you. What time is it? Oh, okay, cool. So what other questions did I have for you? Let's see. So so when I see you at times will sell a car. So are you building all of these cars because you want to build a collection, or are you doing it to what are you trying to make money? I mean, what's the plan? What's the goal?
Well, my wife would like me to sell some cars because she says I have too many projects. I don't know where she gets that idea, but some of these cars I'm not too into, and I do them because they're a good value and they'll do well for the channel. The Bentley that I'm doing right now, that I'm selling that right after I get done with it. The Supra that I'm doing, I'm also going to sell that because I'm not too big into Supras, and I was also going to be like a 2JZ with a 6-speed. There's a lot of those around.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do a Supra, it's going to be something outlandish and something that nobody's seen, which is a little more ambitious. But the nice ones, the Lamborghinis and Ferraris and stuff, usually have such a crappy history that no self-respecting, prospective owner is going to look twice at these things and then give me like market value. They're going to be like, well, I looked at the Carfax and boy, howdy, you don't want to see what that says. So those I'd keep. And I'd like to, say that I'm forming a collection. But it's, my wife says I'm a hoarder. And I said, you know what the difference between hoarding and a collection is? Presentation. So if it's, if you go to Jay Leno's garage, which, you've been there, all his stuff is like really clean and all his cars run. So you could say that he's a hoarder, but all his cars run and they're all clean. So it's a collection, now it's a museum thing. I got to talk to you about Jay Leno's garage as well, later on. But what I want to talk to you about is I want to I've looked around my shop, and like you, I've seen that it can get a little dirty. Okay, I'd like to be an ambassador to your mode of thinking, not like a brand ambassador, like Hawk Your Merch, which is really good, by the way. But like I want to have a spot, like a designated spot in my garage where I can clean cars, where I can keep them clean. And then one side of the garage is going to be like a showroom, like where I just have the cars that are done. That's where they go. That's where they're parked. And then I take them out and then we can do stuff with them and whatever. And then there's going to be one side of the shop, which is going to be all working on cars. And that's going to be where the dirty area is. So
you're going to have walls?
No, I'm not going to have walls, but I am getting some like really good epoxy coating put on the floor, which we'll see if that lasts for a while. But I am going to try to maintain like a certain aesthetic with the shop, because after this Bentley engine went out, like the amount of fluids and oil that came from that car, like, and dirt and grime and rust, and geez, it was so bad. So I just want to make sure that is kind of separate, because I'm looking at all the cars on my wall that I have parked, and I'm like, these are pretty nice cars, and like I can clean them up and they'll look pretty good. So that's one thing I kind of want to get into, because I never pay too much attention to keeping my cars clean, but I do like when you can just, hey, I can go to a car show. You know, I can go to a car show and people aren't going to be like, oh, okay, well, I guess you didn't go to the car wash before.
Yeah, it's tricky because, you know, Florida is difficult. Like you would think Florida would be a great place to keep your car clean, you know, because we have nice weather and sunny all the time. But
well, I mean, some places in Florida, maybe South Florida or something.
Even then, I mean, it's so much. It's actually a really difficult place, especially Central Florida with all the bugs. You know, we have a lot of bugs.
Well, the bugs are insane, especially now, love bug season.
Yeah.
You take one drive and your entire car looks like it's taking mortar fire.
Right. It's really, really difficult to keep the car maintained.
Right.
So, you know, what you need is we need a washing area, right? So we need a pressure washer on the, you know, preferably wall mounted with some kind of a hose reel so that you can get it out and keep it put away when you're done with it. And then you know, some area where you have some cabinets and stuff like that to store some towels and some you know, some sprays and things like that.
Would it be cabinets or would shelves work?
That could work too.
Yeah, because that's what I have right now. I just have 2 shelves with like all detailing supplies. I have the Patterson Car Care stuff that they sent. I also have all the JLN's garage stuff. I have the rag company's rags. I have everything they sent me. So.
Yeah, so you're on your way, and then you build a process. Like I wash my car the same way every time. You know, so you have a process where you wash it a certain way and keep it clean.
Yeah.
But you know, when you have 20 cars, it's a little more difficult to do that.
Well, it's more of like it's a one-time thing where now, like, okay, this is the car washing day. Now we just got to get everything off, you know, these cars, and then one by one you'll, like, you know, because they sit in the garage. So it's the only thing that they're getting is dust on them. Right. Yeah. And you know, they're not staying outside. When they stay outside, that's when they get like really destroyed. But I'd really like to get more into that. I love getting into a car where like the leather is clean and like everything's kind of, you know, it's
it becomes a job. You know, they have to do it. You know, that's a place where you can hire somebody.
I wouldn't say it's a job. I'd say more a ritual. I love little rituals that get you away from what you'd normally do. So when I sometimes have these videos that I make about Lego sets that I build, and they're usually cars and whatever. I did one on a Bugatti Chiron, that Lego Technic one. And my ritual is that I watch old Top Gear. Like I have all the seasons of old Top Gear on my laptop, and I just start marathoning them. And that's what I do. And I just build this Lego set. It takes me, you know, 8 hours or something. And then, you know, afterwards you have this thing and like you feel good. It's not necessarily like a huge money maker, but it's, you know, it's cool. And I think with keeping the cars clean, one, it keeps the cars clean, and two, it allows you to, you know, get some, like, you have a tactile feel on things. You know, like you can actually see what your result is. You know, you're making an impression on the car very literally.
I don't know if you can probably see this on my face. I struggle with the halfway, you know, or even 3/4 of the way, you know. So I'm just thinking, I'm like, well, how are we going to do this to where we do that? Because you're not going to want to do what I do.
well, no, but I can get here's the thing. And I know you realize this, like 25% of what you do is 100% what like most people think is like an amazing car wash.
Right.
Yeah. So like what the guys at the rag company did, we made my Bentley, like I thought it looked, first of all, what they did is they made it look so good. This could be like a showroom car, you know? But they're like, yeah, this is like one step, you know, this is like, this is not.
You can do way better, right?
Yeah. Like they're not. Like, we're not even doing anything here, you know. Like, yeah, we spent a bunch of time on it, but that's because it was so dirty.
Yeah.
And it was like, who, you know, this isn't anything. And
well, and that's that comment of showroom. You know, the showroom to me is like the place where cars go to die. You know.
Of course.
Like the worst place your car could be is in a darn showroom.
Right. But people don't know that. People go there like, oh, look at all these shiny new cars, and you're just going there. This paint is horrible. Look at all the overspray and like, oh, is that paintless dent repair?
Yeah. And but it's shiny. They got lots of wax on it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's shiny. So, for me, I think just getting it. Even to get it to that level is a step up for me, you know? And the ambassadorship is to your mode of thinking, to your mindset, to like let's get this stuff as nice as possible because that adds to the story as well. Like this used to be a piece of crap, and now it's a shiny piece of crap. It's a polished turd.
It's a working, now it's a working example. And
yes.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that the first thing people see is the paint and the exterior, and if it's even if the paint isn't perfect, if it's as good as it could be,
right,
or at least 75% better than what it was, then it makes you maybe overlook some other things that may not be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'd love to do. So maybe you can help me out. Well, do you still have all the what did you do with all those?
They're all gone. Pressure washers.
Oh no! What happened?
I sold them.
You sold them?
Oh yeah, I was supposed to hold one for you, wasn't I?
Probably.
Yeah.
I feel like I can get one on Amazon though.
Yeah, I think you can. Huh? Oh yeah, we're gonna do the comment at your place, so I still have that.
Yeah.
We just need water.
I can get water. I have the ability.
We need a water.
We have the technology.
We need a plumber to come and get water to a place where we can mount it.
I feel like I can just get a hose and we can just tee it off the sink.
I guess you could. Yeah. Shoot.
Oh, fun fact. My
that doesn't help me.
No, my water line from to the shop burst.
Okay.
So I got to my shop and there was a lake on the side of it.
Yeah.
And so instead of me calling the landlord and complaining or whatever, I just went to Home Depot and fixed it. It's like a little ball valve.
Yeah.
So I fixed it and I got a bill. It was $700. Like my usual bill is $100.
Yeah.
So it was like $700 for that, like that one morning of it, just
So, but because you didn't call,
it's not because I didn't call. It's just like I can't. There's no reality in which that call gets me to a result faster than if I did it myself.
Yeah.
So he has to call somebody. They have to come out on their time and then my dime probably. And then they have to do the same thing that I would have done. I have all the tools. I know where the shutoff valve is.
Yeah.
So I just
Yeah, but now you got to pay the $700 bill.
I'm disputing it with the city.
Yeah.
Because I said, hey, listen, this is a water line from the city. So I don't know. And it's a brand new building too. It's like the building's only a few months old. So who knows.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you being candid with, I'm fascinated by
of course, anytime.
People's stories in business and how that works and how you go about your day and all of that stuff. So thanks for sharing that.
Of course, yeah.
For those of you who aren't familiar, go check out Tavarish on YouTube, Wrench Every Day as well. There's a podcast, Wrench Every Day, and then a YouTube channel for that. And then, as always, come back and check us out. I try to do this every week. Freddie and I will be doing some other stuff, I'm sure, in the future. I'd like to come out and shoot some video on installing Comet pressure washer out there. And
I'd love to.